this particular piece, we're going to look at chipping around the greens. When it comes to the short game, distance control is a very important part. You see, if you have a putter in your hand, or you're playing a chip and run or a small chip, you're basically going to get the direction as it should be. The hard part, that depends upon whether you get up and down in two or not, comes down to distance control. So I've placed this green basket here on the practice ground. This flat area here is called the Poulter Plateau. This is where Ian Poulter practices. So these are all his divots, and no one else is allowed on there. But I've just borrowed his space, and I've put a bucket there. Now just imagine, as a kid, you're at the fairground, you're trying to land a ball into the bucket to win a goldfish. You've got to throw it high and try and drop it in the bucket, which is quite a hard thing to do. And because you're going up, it's very hard to judge the distance the thing is going to go. So in terms of distance control, it would be easier for me if I could just roll the ball like in the old days playing marbles. I'm much better at distance control when the ball is going forward low. Okay, so distance control when you're hitting a low shot is easier. Now in this piece I want to show you that we can basically have a mechanism that sends the ball forward low irrespective of how much loft is on the club. So when you're playing a putter, distance control is easy. You play a chip and run with a 5-iron, distance control is relatively easy. But if you can think about your wedges and lofted chips going forwards rather than up, you will find it easier to get the weight of the shot as you want it. So the club maker will vary the trajectory of the shot, but in your mind's eye, all you're responsible for is rolling the ball the right distance. And that's an easier thing to do underarm. Okay, let's take that down to the practice area. So having understood that a low shot is easier to judge the distance, let's take that into the shot itself. Now I've got a 5-iron, I narrow my stance, and remember, I pull the club up my sleeve. Don't go down the handle, your wrist action won't change and you become too short. Full scale posture, narrow the stance, pull the club up your sleeve. Now, I'm just going to putt the ball with the 5-iron to the first basket. Okay. Now I'm going to go to the second basket up on the Poulter Plateau. And there's a little rise to judge as well. And now I'm going to go the furthest distance of the three. I'm going to go to the synthetic putting green. That's about 60 yards away, the whole 60 yards away. Now as you can see, I played the shots live, close to, medium distance and a long chipping action. And it didn't matter the ground was broken up with divot patterns and those two actual banks in my way. The human body is very clever at judging weight if you run the ball in. You see, when you play a shot that's high, it can dig its toes in. You don't really know what it's going to do. It could stick, it could bounce. However, when you play a ball to roll, it doesn't matter if the first bounce is bad, because there's 60 or 70 other bounces that are going to cancel out. You can imagine Seve or Trevino in their early days when they just had one club. There's Seve on the beach at Bedrena playing all these different shots and visualising. And it's great fun, I think, to practice in this way. Sure, there's a time to work on your mechanics, but mechanics without feel are stillborn. So here we go, to the first bucket, pull the club up my sleeve. All I have to worry about is the weight of the putt. I don't have to worry about the trajectory, just the weight. And my body knows how hard to hit that. That's only about 10 paces away. This next bark is about 30 paces away. Okay, I just look at it, run the ball in. So all of us have this onboard computer that knows how hard to hit the shot. And lastly, I'm going to chip to the target that's furthest away, about 50, 60 yards away on our synthetic green. It's a superb green that works all the year round despite any sort of weather. So here we go, going through my routine. All I have to worry about is how hard I'm going to hit the shot. I don't have to worry about trajectory, just weight. So in my mind's eye, all I was worrying there was the length, and I dealt with the terrain. There were 3 levels, there were 2 little banks to go up, there was semi-rough, fairway cut, and green itself, but the onboard computer worked it out. So now I'm going to go and use my pitching wedge. Now because I'm using my pitching wedge doesn't mean that I'm pitching, I'm going to stay in the chipping family, or the chipping zone, and I'm now going to use my 52-degree wedge for these 3 distances. Now, because of the loft of the club, you can't slice a wedge, particularly over a short distance, so you're entitled to try. I'm going to play all these shots with a hint of cut. And if I play them with a hint of cut, it's going to mean that the club slips across the ball, even though I'm on hard pan. So I won't hit the ball thin or heavy if I play across the blade. Then all I do is I see the ball going forward the right way. It will go higher now, of course, because there's more loft. But in my mind's eye, I'm still thinking low shot. I'm not thinking high. So slightly open stance, play slightly across the ball, and play the chip. You can see that the ball took off on that one before it landed. And now go to the second target, send the ball forward. And again, lastly, to the flag furthest away on the synthetic green, with the wedge, playing a bit of cut spin, but again, in my mind's eye, seeing the ball go low. As you can see, I've got the weight of the shot just about right. When playing these shots, distance control is the key. Whatever club you choose, go through your setup routine and then just work on the distance. The ball is going to go towards the target because that's where you aimed. The loft and the carry, the trajectory of the ball is determined by the club maker, not by you. You only have one responsibility in these 3 shots, and that is to send the ball the right distance. I just happen to be using a very lofty putter called a pitching wedge. So here we go. A little shot, a medium shot, and lastly, the longest shot.